Go. Good evening. I'd like to welcome you all to the September 18th meeting of the Southwestern Vermont Career Development Center. It is 6 o'clock. Public comments. Do we have any public? Seeing none, we'll move on. We have a presentation tonight by Vic Milani having to do with school safety. Welcome, Vic.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's my pleasure to be with you this evening. And what I'm going to do is give you a quick overview of the Mount Anthony Union High School Career Development Center safety plan. I want to talk to you a little bit about how it was developed and essentially how we're moving forward to implement this plan. Before I do that, there are some people that I want to acknowledge. First of all, my superintendent, James Colkeen, who was very proactive in this regard. And it was him who initiated this undertaking, knowing that it's our mission to deliver quality education, but equally important, we have to deliver that education in a safe environment. And as parents send their children off to school around the country, I think everybody wants to have some security and know that the school, being responsible for the safety of their children, has a plan in place to be able to act in the event of any type of emergency. So I'd also like to acknowledge two people, certainly a director, Mike Lawler, who is also a member of our safety committee, Meg Hunsinger, assistant director. We work very closely together in developing this plan. And I have to say that Jim Colkeen, in his tenure here as superintendent, really began to foster a great relationship between the CDC and the high school. And I have to say that I'm very happy to report we at the high school are very happy to continue to have that great collaboration with Mike and Meg. We work together closely every day. We share even some personnel as far as police who work at the CDC and the high school. And Meg and Mike are there if we have a problem over there, and likewise, we're going to be here to work together with you. So what we did first is we really did a building safety assessment, and we looked at three areas. We looked at the telephone system. We wanted to be sure that the telephone system had the features that would really be important in an emergency type event. Do we have the telecommunications capabilities to be able to communicate with our first responders, with parents, with other community members? And so we assessed and evaluated that, and again, we were certainly satisfied that we're in good shape there. The next thing that we looked at was the entryway. Obviously, we want to be sure that we have a locked perimeter. We want to be sure that we can make a determination as to who we want to have enter into the school. And you have a great system in place. You have a vestibule where people can enter the building and inclement weather. Again, and certainly Sandy or someone else who is on duty in the main office can certainly make a determination, is this an appropriate person to allow entry into the building? So we feel good about that system. The final thing that we looked at was cameras. And as you know, that you do have a camera system. You certainly have a technician who's responsible for the daily operation of the camera system and maintenance of that. We collaborate with her, with Sherry. You have 31 cameras in place that monitor both interior as well as the perimeter of the building. And again, very often, if there is an action that occurs that might call for some disciplinary action, very often we would come over and look at your cameras, and likewise, we make our cameras available to you. So that's part of the collaboration that we enjoy with the CDC. What we did is we really had to determine what are the types of threats or hazards that we have to consider developing a protocol for. And there were 4 major categories of threats and hazards. The first one being natural events, and they're primarily weather-related events, whether it be, unfortunately, a flood like in Texas or a flood like in Florida, but certainly in this part of the country, we can have blizzards, we can have ice storms. So again, we have to have a protocol in place to deal with those types of events, should they arise. The second category really relates to biological events, whether it be contaminated food, infectious disease. So we had to evaluate those, and I'll tell you how we did that in a moment. The third category is technological events. These can be hazardous material spills. They can be gas leaks, for a few examples. And finally, the category that gets the most media attention is the category that involves human adversarial acts. And again, certainly your active shooter, which is one that certainly we've been very concerned about as a country, in knowing that in the last few years we've had a dramatic increase in the types of school shooting events. So, but also included in that category are other types of criminal events that probably would be more common. Domestic violence. We certainly can have school bus emergencies, school bus accidents. We can have cyber attacks. So, quite frankly, we're certainly going to be prepared for the adversarial shooter, but it's far more likely that we'd be dealing with a hazard or threat that falls into even one of the other 3 categories I mentioned. Certainly a weather-related event is something that we can anticipate with a high likelihood of occurring. So what we did is, as we went through these 4 categories, we had to evaluate what is the risk that each of these types of events or hazards would present to the joint campus of the Mount Anthony Union High School and the CDC. And if it was a low risk, we didn't have to develop a specific protocol. However, if we assessed it as a medium or a high risk, we had to come up with a protocol as to what we would do. What we would do before the event, just as the notification, we became aware that this event was imminent, what we would do during the event, and what we would do following the event. Now, it's so important to have these plans in place. We want our faculty and staff to know what to do in the moments before first responders arrive on the scene. So in any of these types of events that I've mentioned, there's going to be an interval of time before police, fire, rescue arrive on scene. And it's very important for our staff and our faculty to know what they should be doing to protect themselves and the students within their community. On the other hand, we've developed these plans in conjunction with these first responders as community partners. They know what to expect of our faculty and staff now, and our faculty and staff know what their role is going to be once they arrive on scene. So that type of communication, that type of collaboration between the school community and the community partners is essential to have a good plan. So we've done that. We have that in place. As we develop these plans, what we've done, as in many of the meetings that I've attended on a state level, we've evaluated the tragic types of events that have occurred across the country. Whether it be a weather-related event, whether it be a technological event, or a human adversarial type event. Every time an event occurs, after the event is concluded, obviously we sit back and say, what could we have done better? What could we have done to perhaps reduce the risk of injury? What could we have done to save lives in the plan that we've developed? And what we do is we learn from that. So by no means is this plan that we have in place now static. It's dynamic. It's going to change all the time. And as we continue to learn, as we continue to evaluate occurrences, there's lots of feedback now, even from these most recent events in Florida and Texas. You know, what could we have done better? And, this is the way we learn, this is the way we evolve, and so these plans will continue to change. Now, the types of events that we have to respond to emergencies, we drill these. And the Agency of Education has determined the schedule for the drills that we have to conduct. And the schedule is such that we have to do 6 fire egress evacuations a year. That means we have to activate the fire alert system, and what we have to do is evacuate the buildings. We have a plan in place. We have what are called sweepers, who would go through the building, report to incident command to determine that the building is clear, and then we would follow up with an attendance check to account for all persons present. We've been doing that consistently for a few years. What we're going to be doing as we move forward this year, we try and at least have one variable change every time we do a drill. So we don't want to do it the same time every day. We don't want to do it the same day of the week. We want to, if there's a fire egress evacuation and a particular group is designated to leave, for instance, by this exit, what we may have is somebody standing in here, a fireman, and saying, the fire's there, you can't go out that way, and see what they do. Because faculty and staff, although they've been trained, they're going to have to make some common sense decisions, because that can happen. So, bottom line is, we're going to try and change some things up. Again, the more variables we throw in, the more training we'll have, and we'll have a training to revert back to. The other type of evacuation that we're going to practice once a year is where we go from what's called a stage 1 to a stage 2. The stage 2 means that the evacuation is going to be for a prolonged period of time. It's not going to be the usual evacuation that we would have in the case of a stage 1 or a fire drill. So what does that mean? Well, the fire alarm activation system is gone off. It could be due to a heat detector, it could be due to a smoke detector. What's going to happen? Fire department response if it's not a drill. Let's say there is smoke in the building, faulty boiler. Let's say somebody burnt their toast and set off a smoke alarm. We're going to probably be outside of the building for an extended period of time. It's important for us to account for all persons present. We have a moral and legal responsibility to do that. So anybody we take out of this building, we've got to make sure that we're accountable for where they are. So the stage 2 evacuation site is the football field. We have designated areas on the football field. Again, the sweepers would move out to the football field to meet with their respective teachers that they're assigned to take that attendance and account for all persons present. So that's another type of event we're going to practice once a year. The last type of evacuation is what's called a stage 3 event. And that's an event of where we have to evacuate off-site. So we have to evacuate all of the students in the combined Mount Anthony Union High School and CDC. Now we're talking probably 1,200 students, faculty, and staff. And we have to do this in an orderly manner, and we have to assign roles and responsibilities to everybody on this campus. And we've done that. And we've assigned every faculty and staff member a particular responsibility. So we certainly have our incident commanders. We're going to have people who are going to be escorts of the students to the Bennington Fire Station, which is our stage 3 location. We have to have a first aid station in place. We have to have people that will be on the perimeter to ensure that parents who arrive on scene, as they will be told that please let us do our job. We're going to keep your son and daughter safe. Please go home, listen to your K-12 alert system. Just this week, we did publish some new information on our website that talks about what's called the reunification centers for all of the SBSU schools. Where are the stage 3 evacuation sites? As I mentioned, the CDC and the Mount Anthony Union High School, it's the Bennington Fire Station. But I was responsible for developing the plans for the whole district. So all of that information is on the website. We also have some great information about the K-12 alert system. And again, what parents should do and what they shouldn't do. What we want them to do is remain home, listen to the radio, listen for the K-12 alerts, but don't come to the actual scene where the incident is occurring. That's only going to impede our first responders and make it more difficult for us as school personnel. The final event that again relates to the adversarial shooter that we mentioned is what's called the lockdown. And again, we're mandated to practice that 5 times per year. And the lockdown means that there is an imminent threat, could be an intruder in the building, could be some sort of felonious act in the community where there is a possibility that this felon might be seeking refuge in one of our buildings. So we would go into lockdown. And lockdown means that in a classroom setting, the teacher would obviously lock the door, put any window covers in place, shut the lights, and seek refuge in what is determined to be a safe area in the room. And there are emergency packs in the room that designate where those safe areas are. That's in a classroom setting. We had to go through the entire facility because we have many areas in both the CDC and the high school that are not classroom areas. So it's not as easy as if a student was in a classroom. So we have to make a plan. We have to have locations as to where those students and faculty would go in this lockdown situation because it's a non-classroom setting. So we had to determine safer refuge areas for that. And so Mike and Meg were extremely helpful with that as we developed this plan together. So that kind of gives you a broad overview of how we developed this plan, why it's important for us to have it in place, and some of the types of emergency responses that we would have. And again, the protocols for all of those threats and hazards that we have determined were either medium or high risk. So that's probably my 15-minute overview, but certainly I'd be happy to answer any questions that anybody has.
Do we have cameras on the buses?
We do, sir. And those cameras are monitored by the bus company. So should there be an incident on the bus that we become aware of, we would call the bus company and ask them to provide us that tape on that bus. So that's something that just was instituted within the last year. So that's really helped us out.
Ken, to answer your question, for all CDC buses, we do run most of our own transportation. They all have cameras on them as well that we can access.
Yes, sir.
For bullying or assault, stuff like that.
What kind of events would trigger a stage 3 evacuation where we move people to the firehouse?
You know, again, it's got to be something that is threatening us on site. Again, the incident commanders, if there is an event that is really jeopardizing the student community in this particular geographic location, where it is safe for us to move, we have 2 routes by which we could go to that Bennington fire station. The preferred route, again, depending on what the event is, because it's a very good question, we could move through the veterans home and take that route. But let's say that there's a problem, let's say there's a gas leak at the veterans home. And what they're telling us is we've got to evacuate within a 3-block radius of the veterans home. Then we would obviously use our other route, and incident command would make a determination, this is the route we're going to go to. So that would kind of be an example. Let's say there was that gas leak at the veterans home, and we have to evacuate. So that would
Okay, thank you.
Well, sir.
For a stage 3 incident, one of the things you said is, you would want parents to stay home and monitor their K-12 alerts. And both my kids go to Monument. My wife's not staying home monitoring her K-12 alerts.
Okay.
She's going to be there at school looking to collect the kids
Okay.
ASAP. What contingency plans do you have? Because a lot of parents are probably not going to sit at home.
Okay.
And just wait for alerts. They're going to be there looking to get their kids ASAP. So
You're
including my
absolutely
wife.
right. And let me tell you how the plan addresses that. First of all, law enforcement has told us 2 things. I mentioned that we have several routes to the fire station. One of them is obviously crossing intersections, even the one the veterans home is. All of our other schools in the SVSU have that as well. we have to, A, assign people to intersections. So what's going to happen, incident command, these people know that they've been assigned to a particular intersection. I'm going to come right around to your question in a minute. So what would happen is if the stage 3 is called by incident command, these people would collect an orange vest, they have lanyards with whistles, and they would go to a particular intersection. The law enforcement has told us that depending on what the event is, don't count on us for obviously crossing. The other thing that they've told us, which relates exactly to your question, is that in an event, we can't tell you that we're going to be available to provide security around your stage 3 site. So you have to assume that responsibility. So we have what are called perimeter monitors. And we, again, Mike and Meg, know their faculty and staff very well. And as we assign different tasks for these stage 3 events, we try to kind of match up personalities with a type of responsibility that we thought they'd feel comfortable with. So what these stage 3 monitors do is they're on the outside of the building. So here's your wife approaching on one of those stage 3 monitors, okay? So I'm going to say, she's going to say, you know, my name is, you know, my daughter is, and, you know, I'm really concerned. And I'm going to say, ma'am, you know, I understand that. We certainly have the situation in hand. Please be assured that your son or daughter is safe within that facility. But on the other hand, by you being here, it's really, it could interfere with us being able to do our job, to ensure that we're going to be able to keep your son and daughter safe in that facility. Again, so we would ask you to go home and monitor the K-12 alerts and so forth. We will notify you on K-12 alerts when you could come to this reunification site. We'll be bringing buses in to release students. I have to tell you that this might be a time-consuming event. As we begin to release students in a reunification, we have to, A, go onto that infinite campus for every student, because you're probably aware of the fact that on some of these infinite campus postings, it says no contact for a particular individual. It might be a sole custody situation where one parent has custody, the other has a no contact with that child. It's our moral and legal responsibility. Before we release anybody, certainly to a parent, we've got to be checking all of that. And if we have 1,000 students at that site, and we're going to start releasing them, we have people that are designated to bring computers. We have people designated to let us use their cell phones, because this can be a timely process. But on the other hand, we can't rush this. We've got to do it the right way. The last thing we want to do is to release a student to a person who is an inappropriate person to be able to pick up that student. So that would be my message to your wife. And, you know, I think the people we've selected in these roles, I think, would be diplomatic, they'd be polite, and I think they'd try and explain that. Some people may say, I'm not leaving. Well, then what we're going to do is we're going to have a holding area that we're going to put these people in. That's the best we can do. So I hope that responds to your question.
Yeah, the holding area thing at the end is, you know, or somebody to tell them where the kids are going to be. You know, not just like, where the hell are my kids? You know, like, okay, I can go to the fire station and there or whatever to know that I can pick them up. So.
We've designated a couple of areas. We have at each site, we have what's called the media staging area. So no media is going to show up there. So we have to, and we want the media. See, the media is really our friend in an issue like this, because we want information that the public information officer would be communicating on K-12, on the radio, on the TV. We want it to be accurate. And the media, if you don't give them anything, they're just going to begin to call people and interview people, and that's how you get inaccurate information. So the media are our friend here. We want to make sure they're in a position that they can see what's going on, so that they'll be reporting accurate information. So just as we have that media staging area, we also have a parent staging area. If people don't want to go home, they want to remain there. And I can understand the heightened anxiety that they have. We all would have that. But again, I would just hope that they will trust in us to let us do their job, to let us do our job, and release their child to them in a timely manner as fast as we can.
And I think, you know, you have to keep in mind that probably what takes the longest in an event like that is accounting for the students. So as soon as we get to the firehouse, we're checking all the kids in. And then when we go to release them, we're checking them out too. So, I mean, it takes a bit of time just to do that.
Just to piggyback on what Meg said, we know that if we're moving 1,000 students from these buildings to the fire station, especially students high school age, they can drive, some of them live walking distance, we're going to lose some. So, as Meg said, we've got to be very careful that we check everybody in, and then we check everybody out to an appropriate person. And again, if somebody says, you know, my son's not here, where's my son? They never arrive there. Again, all the escorts can do is discourage people from leaving, but we can't physically stop them from leaving as we're evacuating to that site. So again, we try to look at all of these possible issues, we try to address them, and that's all delineated in the plan.
Anything else? Thank you very much, Vic.
Thank you,
Great
guys.
presentation.
Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you again.
Hope you never have to write an after battle report for one of these events.
Good night.
Thank you.
All right, let's move on to consent agenda. We have the minutes of the RGB board meeting on August 21st, 2017. We have a motion.
I'll move it. Second.
Fran moved, Ed second. Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Raise your right hand. Unanimous? Payroll warrants, 1007, number 7, 1009, and number 8. Motion, please. So moved.
Second.
Fran moved, Leanne seconded. Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, raise your right hand. Unanimous? Vendor warrants, 1008, 1010. So moved.
Second.
Fran made the move and Leanne seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, raise your right hand. Unanimous? In your Dropbox, there should have been a cash flow statement and revenue and expenses. Committee reports, I don't believe we had any, have we, this month?
No.
Okay. So I think we'll go right on to the action items. We have a nomination. Would you care to talk more about it, Mike?
Certainly. There is one nomination in the Dropbox for Tim Mullen, who's a new paraprofessional in transportation person here at the CDC, as replacing Frank Nolan, who left us in the end of last school year. So it is a replacement, it's not a new position. We had a difficult time filling the position. Tim comes to us with a great amount of experience working from Stratton Mountain Guest Services and from Reliable Racing Supply and Marketing Director over in New York. And we had 10 applicants. We interviewed 3. I guess the interview committee was there, and Tim was brought on board just 8/30 of 17, so not very long ago, just right before school started. We're glad to have Tim on board. This is his official nomination here tonight.
So moved.
Second.
Leanne moved, Franny second. All, discussion, please? Okay. Ken second. Discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. It's unanimous. Adopt policies. Leanne, would you like to talk about your policies?
Well, we have 2 policies down that we had on last 3200C, which is emergency closing. And we didn't get any information back in terms of modifications to be made for those. The only thing that happened here is that now we approve these, the dates and the strikeouts will need to be changed to reflect the new dates in which we did the review and the warning for them. So I'd like to ask that we approve the, have a motion to adopt the emergency closing policy. number 3200C.
So moved.
Second.
Ed moved and Fran seconded. Discussion. Yes,
Is this
Jackie.
policy in line with the presentation that we just had?
Well, it would be the other way around. It's a presentation in line with the policy that we have.
Correct?
sure.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyone else? Seeing none, all in favor, raise your right hand. Unanimous.
The next policy, we had transportation 3100C, and that we didn't have any additional changes from our review when we won it. We still have strikeouts that we needed to remove and then update it once we adopt the policy here. So what I'd like to do is ask that we have a motion to adopt transportation policy 3100C.
Second.
Franny moved, Ken second. Discussion? Yes, Jack.
This policy include students who are homeless?
What do you mean?
Well, sometimes students are in one school, and then because their parents move, and I'm talking especially of the elementary, but they might move from one area to another area of town because that's what's available for that week or whatever. Will their transportation be covered?
We take kids from the sending schools area in terms of this type of transportation, and then we have some transportation that we do some here in terms of our own bus drivers that are covered into this. So a transit student will basically, I think, fall in the responsibility of the school that's sending the kids to the CDC.
So the answer is correct, yes.
This policy is up to date and have everything, yes.
Okay.
Jackie, if I may.
Go ahead.
Shasberry had that issue where a kid in the school district pays for that child to be transported, so that is.
So if the student started in Shasberry, for instance,
And it's homeless, yeah.
and homeless, and then they moved down to Bennington,
Yep.
but so that's like a unwritten policy, or it's not in the policy?
Jim explained, the superintendent explained it at the
Last
meeting. Not the last
Last one?
meeting, but last year we had that incident and explained to us, because the question came up, well, who pays for the child and who checks to see where the residency and all that stuff is. So, and it was okay, and then the district picks up that.
Well, I just wanted to explain on TV.
Oh, okay.
That doesn't apply to the CDC
It doesn't
anyway.
apply, that's what I was saying.
It
That's
applies to Shasberry and Pownell and Woodford, the elementary, the SVSU schools.
Right. Under state statute, the sending schools are actually required to provide transportation to the tech center, and that's for all tech centers in the state, not just ours. But we do a lot of our own transportation to help districts out. When we go to Arlington and Manchester and Dorset, and we provide transportation to make access easier for students to come to our school. But those students who primarily come from Mount Anthony are bused in from whatever town they're in, usually by DUFOR. We don't make special trips as our district to go pick up students necessarily within an SU. That makes sense.
And the students coming from Hoosick?
They provide their own transportation.
Do they come by
The
bus?
school district provides the transportation, let me clarify that.
Okay.
Right.
Yes.
Anything else? All in favor, please raise your right hand. Unanimous. Superintendent's report.
Good evening, everybody. It's hard to believe it's been a month since we were here last time. A lot of my report tonight was dedicated to Vic's safety presentation at the beginning. Vic has presented at all the boards, and I thought it was important for him to come and present our unified safety plan for this campus. While we are a different district, and we all know that, we do have an adjoined campus with Mount Anthony, and there are some things that we just need to be on the same page with, and emergency planning is one of those. I'd like to thank Vic and all the team that's put this document together. As Vic said, it is a moving plan. Staff changes, roles and responsibility changes. It's ever moving. And this is the first time that I've seen a stage 3 plan really put in place for this campus. We've always had a stage 3 in place, but what would the roles and responsibilities be of all staff members? And it's really a comprehensive plan that has taken a long time to put together. And hopefully we never need a stage 3 evacuation. That would be the hope. Fire drills are much more likely, as we do, as Vic talked about, every other month. Our lockdown and containment drills, we do every other month as well. It ends up being 5 of one and 6 of the other. We do have an occasional alarm pull here and there, accidental trips of the fire alarm, rather intentional or not. So I think we had one the 3rd day of school this year, and it was accidental and went off, and we evacuated. So we're pretty used to fire drills, and we're really used to containment drills. We've practiced them for a long time. Not all school districts have done that, but we have. And I feel very confident in our planning that when and if an event occurs, no matter what it is, that we're as best prepared as we can be to protect the students, faculty, and staff on this campus. So I want to thank Vic for that. Also, I'd like to talk briefly about, you heard Vic talk about K-12 alerts and Infinite Campus kind of in his presentation. To clarify what those things are for folks in the community and here at the table, Infinite Campus is our student information system where all of students' information is maintained. So all their demographics, photographs, IEPs and 504s, discipline records, the whole student record is maintained in that database. K-12 alerts is just what it sounds like. It is an alert system for emergency closings, notifications to parents, families, students, whomever signs up for the alert system. This year, the CDC is now on the same, because we share the campus, we're on the same system of Infinite Campus. We've been able to work that out where we have our own instance of Infinite Campus. It has all of our students on here that are both from Mount Anthony, from Arlington, from Manchester, from Hoosick Falls, from any other outlying town. They're incorporated into that system so that in the event of an evacuation, we can all access the information from one system, which only makes sense to have for both MAU and us. You heard Vic talk about the reunification is at the firehouse. That's true for all of our students, no matter what campus they come from. Just like Vic talked about, when students are released, buses will start going on their routes. Our buses, in turn, will take students back to their sending schools where they belong. So there's a little bit of a side piece to that for those students that are attending the tech center. It depends on what time of the day that evacuation might take place. There could be 40 students here from off campus. There could be none. It just depends on what time of day it is, because we don't have non-Mount Anthony students all day. We have them in the morning or the afternoon, and not in the middle of the day during our short blocks. We just don't have them here. So it is a very variable plan. Again, if you have more questions, I can try to answer them, but the plan is evolving, and I feel very confident in it. And I thought the questions tonight that the board had of Vic were very good.
I have one question.
Sure.
Students have lockers with their clothing in it. If you have a stage 2 alert on a January day when it's 10 below zero and the wind's blowing, how are they going to get their clothing to go to that football field?
Well, they're not, nor faculty and staff. So a decision could be made fairly quickly to move from that stage 1 directly to a stage 3 evacuation.
Okay.
Stage 2 is really that we can't be near the building, but it's reasonably assured that we're going to be able to get back in the building in a relatively short amount of time. But the thinking of we have to go from 1 to a 2 to a 3 doesn't exist anymore. It could be announced to a 3 almost immediately in that situation, so there is a place where it's warm inside. But we still have to get there. And, so we're training for that. When you leave the building, take stuff with you, particularly faculty and staff. And students, they have lockers, but I have to tell you, they carry their bags all day long.
Yeah, I know.
Everywhere. So they'll likely have a lot of their things with them, but it's not intuitive. It's a great question.
We also have, in the teacher's evac pack that they take out, we have certain blankets in there that, you know, they could share with students, or a couple of students could use them. I don't know what they're called. Mylar blankets.
Yeah,
So-
and they're small and compact, and they're better than nothing. And, you know, the hope is we don't have to use them.
It's just a what-if question.
I was wondering if other board members feel as I do, that it would be nice to have that alert too, because frequently somebody will approach me and say, do you know what's happening at the high school, or do you know what's happening at the...
Anyone can sign up for the K-12 alert system, if it's something that you want. We'll just need your name and phone number, and it goes into the system. And actually, the way it's set up is that student information that is in Infinite Campus, there's a script that runs every night, and it pulls that information out and puts it into the K-12 alert system. So if the contact information in Infinite Campus for parents and students is correct, every night at this prescribed time, it pulls that data into the database, so that people can be alerted to cell phone changes, email changes, etc. But the information is only as good as what's provided to us, so it's important that it's accurate. And it's also important that parents and students make sure we have the correct information on file for their students. It's critical. We collect cell phone data, email, etc. Students can update it in their own portal, parents can update it in the portal. So it does kind of take a little bit of everyone involved to make sure that information is accurate. But if you want to be in the system, let me know, and we can certainly just sign you up. There's no cost to it. Unless there's any more questions, I'd like to move on to the opening of school. We had professional development days on August 30th, 31st, and September 1st. Seems like it was just yesterday, and it's not. September 1st, we had here at the CDC an 8-hour coaching session with our school improvement consultant at Jackson and on embedding instructional strategies and lesson planning. It was a great day. I know that teachers enjoyed it. They actually said they did. They came back with working plans, you know, for the first few weeks of school on embedding those instructional strategies and framing the lesson from teaching bell to bell and why that's important. And it sounds simplistic, but teaching bell to bell is very important to have on instruction time. And so this 8-hour coaching session was great. It was attended by all of our teachers. Non-Anthony students returned on Tuesday the 5th. As you may remember, we had a staggered start this year for the first time. Anthony instituted a staggered start with a freshman orientation, which I think was really important. I understand was very successful. It caused us to rethink how we open school because we have students not from Mount Anthony. And so it was interesting. So we opened on the 5th, provided transportation to students, and did both a morning and afternoon session with them in here on career exploration and personal learning plans and flexible pathways and how that fit into their sending schools. I think it was very successful. It was led by our work-based learning coordinator and our guidance coordinator, and every faculty and staff member took place in the career exploration as well, so they could take it back to the classroom. So it was a very interesting opening for us. And then on Wednesday, all students returned from all of our sending schools. It was nice to see on Wednesday the Hoosick Falls bus show up out front. We haven't seen that in over 10 years, and sure rolled up out front with students for forestry. And all students attended on Thursday. They also had a staggered start on Hoosick Falls. They had a 3 or 4 day orientation where they did a whole school orientation and took all of their students to different places in the regional community. Clark Art Museum, they had cookouts, they had all sorts of stuff for the grades 9 through 12. It was quite an ambitious endeavor. I saw their schedule, and the kids were really seemed to enjoy it. So next month I'll have the all-anticipated enrollment report for you with anticipated FTEs. I can tell you that as of today, we have just a little over 410 students at the center. You ask, how does that compare to other years? It's pretty much on par with other years. It's not substantially higher, it's not substantially lower, it's fairly on par. Stephanie, Meg, and I, over the next course of the month, are going to be doing an analysis to show you our capacity, because our capacity of programs has decreased over the last few years with the closure of some programs, I think a total of 5. And what is our seat capacity? What does that look like? I think it's going to be a very interesting perspective to see what percentage of our existing programs are full. if you will, because we're always looking at, what's the number? Well, the number 415 could look very different this year than it did 5 years ago when we had 5 or 6 more programs. It could be substantially higher, and we have to do that analysis, and I think that'll be interesting for us to do and share that with you. And I hope that's something we're looking forward to next month. We take our snapshot on October 15th. That's what funds our FTE count for the fall. Up until that, anything is a guess. As I call it, the napkin math we can do, what FTEs look like right now. But until we actually count minutes, because that's what counts, is how many minutes students are in classes, that throws our FTE count. And so, we could have 500 students and a lower FTE count than a 400. It just depends on the number of minutes. So we'll have that for you next month on our meeting date. And that'll be I'll say a rough estimate, but it won't change much after that. We usually have a few tweaks where we send all the reports to the different towns, and the superintendents and districts say, this student doesn't live here anymore, they live in this town. So there are some adjustments, but the actual FTE count is pretty solid. And now I'll start our budget discussions for next year, sorts of those fun things going forward. Also, I'd like to talk to you quickly about an initiative that we are continuing in Arlington with work-based learning. Arlington High School wants to start doing more with work-based learning and school and community learning. And so we met with their administrative team, the curriculum director, the principal, an outreach coordinator. And once our students are placed in work-based learning here at our school, which generally takes the first 4 to 5 weeks to get kind of up and going, we are going to go and assist Arlington in getting students placed in work-based learning, both from our programs and to get them started as a school doing more with school to work. So I should see that as a rewarding future for us and for the students in the Arlington area. Also coming up, I know I've repeated myself 100 times on this, but I'm going to repeat it 101. This year is our decennial review and reaccreditation with NEASC. The staff has worked very hard in a year-long self-study, a very long self-study with new indicators and new standards that haven't been tried before. We're only the second school in New England to be tested against these standards, so it is a stressful time, I have to tell you that. And NEASC, there'll be a 13-member visiting team here the week of November 6th to 9th. They'll be here reviewing all of the information that we've provided to them. The current report is a little over 160 pages long, and it covers the following areas: our core values and expectations, curriculum, instruction, assessment, culture and leadership, student services and support, and school finance and community relations. Those are the 7 main categories. There's also a school and community profile report, which is really factual about what does our community and population look like. And then there are also reports for every single career cluster and program that we have that measures benchmarks against curriculum, instruction, assessment, et cetera. Everything ties back together. I'll tell you, it's been a lot of work. I think we've certainly identified some things that we're strong in, and the things that we can work on. And that's what this is designed to do. It isn't a gotcha moment. It isn't any of those things. And when we have questions for NEASC, they can't necessarily give us the answer because we're only the second school to go through it with these new career tech standards. So that itself has been difficult. We have nothing to look at, nothing to compare ourselves to. So it'll be interesting to see what the final report says. Again, they'll be here the week of November 6th, and we expect to see a preliminary report by January from the NEASC committee on voting to continue partial accreditation, reaccreditation, et cetera. It's really important for our school to be accredited by a recognized institution. So I want to thank all the faculty and staff who worked on that. We are almost done. We're not quite there. The deadline is the 30th of September. Every faculty and staff member have to approve every single report as it's written and submitted to the NEASC committee. That is a challenge because every committee, for example, the curriculum committee, the assessment committee, it's all written through their own lens. And then the entire school community has to look at it and say, do we agree with this on its face value? And some things we don't necessarily agree on and need to be changed and voted on by the entire faculty. Last week we did 3 standards. There'll be 3 more standards tomorrow, and the following week will be the final standard, which is school finance and community relations, and then we have to approve the report in its entirety as a faculty and staff and get it submitted to NEASC for their review before the team gets here. So again, it's a big undertaking. We could have chosen to not continue with NEASC and not be accredited. I don't think that would be a wise move to lose our accreditation as a school whatsoever. We've worked strongly with SREB over the last 4 years. We continue that partnership with SREB for school improvement, and we see actually a lot of the self-assessment results at NEASC turning back into our focus teamwork that we've done with SREB in developing action plans for continued school improvement. So that is my report for this evening.
We have to remain, are you finished?
I'm done.
We have to remain accredited because if we weren't, a student who graduates and goes on to college probably wouldn't get credit for the courses taken here if we weren't accredited, which could affect the scholarship that a student may have. So it's a necessity that
The state
we go
says
through
that the
this.
tech centers have to be reviewed by an independent body at least every 5 years. They don't prescribe that overview. It doesn't say it has to be NEASC, it has to be tech centers that work. It has to be reviewed by an independent third party. It could be the state, et cetera. NEASC has been the standard to which we've been judged and accredited for many years, including the high school, and NEASC is the accrediting body. The state has said we could choose a different accrediting body if we want, because the state says we don't have to be accredited, we have to be reviewed by an independent party. We've chosen to continue accreditation through the traditional route of NEASC, primarily because of the substantive changes they've made to focus on the career tech centers. It's no longer just lumped in with the high schools. It is specialized for the tech center.
This is sort of a micro issue, but I know since we have college level courses on this campus, that people from those colleges need to be able to come in and observe class to maintain because NEASC accredited colleges too, so to be able to award the college credit for courses taken here.
Yeah.
Have you been able to get that so that those folks can come in and do the observations in the classrooms? That
Yes,
they need to be
through
able
the
to do?
negotiation process, the language was changed in the teacher's contract to reflect that institutions that offer those college credits could come in and evaluate the academic content to award that credit. It's not an evaluation of the teacher or the program, it's of the content that the college is offering the credit for. So yes, that's been addressed.
That's been addressed,
Yep.
okay. I know the teachers were worried that somebody would come in and sit and be like,
Right.
go back to you and say, well, they're terrible, I
Right.
understand that.
So the language is really clear that
Yeah.
that is not an evaluative tool for administrators to use. It is for the college purposes only.
Okay. Excellent.
Is there an on-site visit also besides the reports that you write?
Yes, there'll be 13 members here, 13 people from NEASC who are people from NEASC. They're teachers and administrators from other tech centers across New England. That's who they are. And there will be 13 of them here, November 6th to the 9th on site.
And did you want some of us to be around then too? Or?
The visiting chair, who is named Todd Fields, he's from the Westbrook Regional Vocational Center in Westbrook, Maine. He will, along with his co-chair, set the schedule for those days. That will not be set until our report is submitted, but it is likely that they will want to talk to board members, the community members. There will likely be a dinner here on the 6th of November, which will involve the board, the visiting team, the faculty and staff. I don't have all those details yet because the visiting chair has to set those with me, and our report hasn't been submitted yet. So there'll be some more information forthcoming, I would imagine, by our October meeting, since we have to submit by the 30th of September.
So should we save the date, November 6th?
I would say the 6th or the 7th,
6th and 7th, okay.
and/or 7th, yes.
Thank you.
But again, I don't have the schedule yet for that.
I got a question. Mine deal with homeschool students that's wishing to take a technical center course over here. And I know the process that may be involved there because their curriculum may be approved outside of a high school or along that line, or they may be going to the high school and then want to take somebody. What's the process for us in those two scenarios?
Yep, so any homeschool student from any town in our sending region is allowed to come to the tech center. And the tech center, I'm oversimplifying this, but bills the town in which those students come from. So it's not necessarily, you know, a certain school district's responsibility to pay for it. It's the town where the student comes from. So they enroll here just like they normally would. And either we'll pick them up at a location that we pick up our regular students from Arlington or Dorset or Manchester, they can come here. We'll bring them back. We don't have a ton of homeschool students, but they're all entitled to enroll here at the center, including any kind of satellite programming that we currently offer or will offer in the future. I don't know if that answers your question.
Well, yeah, I had that question asked me by a couple of people, and I wanted to make sure that, you know, I told them to come on over, you know, and so forth.
Absolutely.
I was worried, but I wanted to get it out there that there was opportunities in the technical center for homeschool
Yes.
students, and they didn't have to go through a whole school. They can, because their curriculum is approved. So,
They can directly enroll at our school.
okay.
I have one satellite type question about finance. When do we find out what the state is going to provide us for tuition for their share of it for a given year?
The on behalf, are you speaking about the on behalf payment, for?
Yeah.
The tuition reduction grant.
Right, well, there's the on behalf, and then there's also an additional grant that's a third of the on behalf that is considered the tuition reduction grant. Those numbers, I can pretty closely calculate during our budget process based on the FTE, the 6-semester FTE counts. Those come out in December for the following year. So, you know, the numbers that I'll be getting in December are going to be for FY19. And I received our numbers, you know, for this year last December. Part of the per pupil rate set by the state, that sometimes takes a little bit longer to shake out, but they usually send out estimates, and they're pretty close.
Okay, I was asking because it appears that our people in the legislature used a lot of one-time funds for the education fund for fiscal year 18, and when they're dispersing money for fiscal year 19,
There might not, you're concerned.
it could result in serious tax increases for everybody.
So the impact of that, just for argument's sake, if the state did pay less for that, then what would happen is essentially the districts the amount that they're paying would increase, you know, and that would cause
Okay.
taxpayer, you know, local taxpayers to pay more funds.
Anyone else? I have nothing to add to this.
We also have open house next week.
Thank you.
Right.
Yes, Tuesday is Tuesday the 26th, is open house. Thank you, Meg. It is on our Facebook page. I actually had it written down here and I skipped over it. So it is an open house. It is open to the community. It doesn't, not just open to students and parents. The community is welcome to be here. It opens at 6 o'clock, I do believe, and we'll be here until a little after 8 o'clock. And so the community is welcome. We'd love to see folks come and see our center.
Is that in line with, is that open house, like everybody?
Yes, it's
Yeah.
also Manhattan's open house that night as well.
Anybody have any other information or anything to discuss? Seeing none? Motion adjourned? So moved. Fran made a motion and?
Sorry.
Leanne second? It's unanimous.